I've had quite a few people ask, what do I do with the shards or the offcuts when I've been cutting with my double-wheeled nippers and creating flowers for my very large outdoor gazing ball? Well, I know one thing, if you don't do anything and you just leave it to the very end of the project to tidy up, it's going to end up in total chaos, and it's going to take you a huge amount of time to actually tidy up and organize things. So what I like to do is I like to do it as I go. Now here's a pile of stained glass that I've actually got here that I've been using to create these roses, and you may have seen these in my previous video on how to create them. These ones have a over laminate on them to keep all the petals together. Now the nippers that I've been using are the Seabell double-wheeled glass nippers, and I find that these green O-rings or bumpers on here really do help to keep everything in one place, because most of the time the shards are just going to drop straight down. If I'm using my Lepinette wheeled nippers or some other type of nippers, then I'll generally cut into a container. So if I've got my shards here, and just to give you a demonstration of these, here's one here, and I'll put that to number 1 because that's what I like to work on. And see, it just keeps it all in one place. You don't have the shards shooting out. So that in itself is going to make it easier. Now what I tend to do with these, I have a container here, and I'll just get a piece of glass. I won't use my fingers to actually move those shards, but I just get them in a pile and then just tip it into the container. And I find that works really, really well. And I do this with every color. So I find when I'm creating the red roses, I'll have the red shards. When I'm creating the pink roses, I'll do the pink ones. What I don't do is a couple of red ones and a couple of pink ones, because then your colors mix up. Now I know some people will keep every single shard. I generally don't, but I keep probably 95% of them. So I end up with a container with the small shards in that I can use as fill or for the centers of flowers. Whatever the case, it's always worth keeping them. And then I end up with a container with the larger pieces of glass in and some of the larger shards. So that's what I tend to do with those. Now, if I am cutting, say, and I'll just give you a bit of a demonstration, I'll just move these shards into this container. I have it on this tray, or this piece of MDF. And then what I'll generally do is I also vacuum up this little area in case there's any little bits and pieces of shards, because I don't want to be putting my hand down on them. What I also tend to do is if I am, for instance, cutting this, let's say I'm cutting part of a rose, and I'm going to be having larger chunks of glass, offcuts, then I'll usually just cut it in that container. And then when it comes to the smaller ones, I can then just nip around the outside like that, and then I can finally put it in this container. You can, of course, put it in this container as you go. For instance, if I'm cutting some small pieces out of this, let's say I'm cutting a rose out, which I'm not, I'm just cutting, and then it automatically goes in there. And then if I'm really just doing some really fine detail and I don't want to keep all these little bits, then I'll move that container and cut it down there in front of me. So really, I'm organizing as I go, which is going to save a lot of time. Now, another thing that I tend to do is I've got some flowers here that I've actually been cutting. Small different flowers here. So I tend to keep all the flowers in different coloured containers, or not different coloured containers, but I tend to keep all the flowers in different containers, and they've all got lids on. So I'm totally organised so that when I'm doing any project or the gazing ball, because this is what these are going to be used for, then I can just select the ones that I want without a problem. You know, they're organised, and I can just go here and select them, and it makes it quicker when I'm adhering the flowers onto the gazing ball. And this works for pretty well any project you're going to be doing where you're going to be cutting a bit of volume. But even if I wasn't cutting a lot of volume, I wouldn't be perhaps cutting into these containers. I'd be cutting into the center like I had before, and then I would just pick out some of the larger pieces and keep those and throw the very minute pieces away. But look, you get into your own system, but I just find this works really, really well for me. You can see there's a container with all the smaller shards in, and a few of the larger pieces so they don't get lost. The same for these ones here, the daisies that I've been doing, the containers in here. And it really just keeps it all together. And there's the ones for the nasturtiums. There's no sorting at the end of the day. Everything's organised. All I have to do then is just vacuum my work surface to get rid of any of those little tiny shards. Now when it comes to the leaves, I also apply the leaves to the laminate like I do with my roses, and I've done a previous video on that if you want to go and have a look. Now one of the things I also do when I'm doing leaves is I put a piece of cardboard down and then a layer of leaves like that, and then another piece of cardboard and another layer of leaves, and I keep going until I've got the height that I want. That keeps it really organised and also makes it quite easy to actually get to those, because I don't want to put a laminate on every leaf that I create. It's much easier for me and quicker to just peel those off as I need them. And by having them on the cardboard, they're already laid out for me to be able to choose which size and which colour that I want to go with. But if you don't want to do it that way, another alternative is to do it the same way as you would with your roses, and that's put it in a plastic like takeaway container, and then you can put the lid on and it keeps it all in one place. It's personal preference which way you would like to go. Now on the edge of my work table, I have this roll of laminate, and I find it comes in really handy here, because when I've finished a bit of a project like let's say a rose or something like that, I can reach over, cut a bit off, something like that, and this will do 2 roses, and then I just put this on top of the rose and it keeps it nicely together, and I know exactly where this is, so it does save me time. I've had a few people ask, how do I actually design the rose, although I'm cutting it out as a rose, but what's my reference point to know that I'm actually doing it right, besides looking at it and going, that looks like a rose? What I generally do is I'll have a look around the garden. You can also print out some colour photos from the internet to give you a little bit of inspiration and direction on where you want to go with your rose. And also what I like to do is also print out black and white images such as this. And this gives me, what I like about this is this gives me the actual design of the petals as well. And also the leaves. If I want to create these leaves, they're quite easy to do. So I find this works really well for me, and I put my own spin on it. Like my roses are not like these, but that's just because it's art and I just do my own thing. But this is a good idea to see the formation of the rose. This is how I do my roses and my leaves. I just get on the internet, have a look around, and then choose something that I can work with, and then I just create my own style of it. Now over here I have a separate table where I've actually laid out all the stained glass that I'm going to be using for the gazing ball. Now I could leave this in the actual cabinet where I store all the stained glass, but the problem with that is that I need to see pretty quickly as to whether it's the right colour, whether it's opaque or semi-transparent, and also the right shade of colour. So having it on this table, I'm able to see pretty well instantly what I'm looking for. Now I may have to sort through a few sheets of it to get to the exact shade that I'm after. But at the end of the day, it's going to be a lot quicker than keeping it in a cabinet. Now once I've finished the gazing ball, then all this glass will be filed away, or what's left will be filed away. But I expect to go through pretty well all this glass anyway. So anyway, I hope you've enjoyed the video. I hope you've taken something away from it. If you have a comment, put it down in the bottom of the comment section on the YouTube channel. Let me know how you keep your studio organized when you've got a fairly large project on the go and how you sort through your tessera. I'm always interested in reading people's comments, and I know many of my viewers are as well. And if you like the video, give it a like, share it if you feel it's got value to it, and I'll see you in the next video. Enjoy.